House number 76 stood at the intersection of Nettle and Kingfisher Streets. For a long time, the only people coming and going were realtors trying to find buyers. As is often the case, potential owners were scared off by the house's history. The two previous families who had lived there had died tragic deaths after contracting some strange illness. For almost 50 years since then, the house's story had been convoluted. Once, a businessman bought it but ended up selling it without ever moving in. Another time, there were major issues with the paperwork. And only after half a century, in 2000, did a family finally show interest in house number 76. The family's father, Maxim Moroskin, was thrilled that the price for such a decent house had been slashed, almost by half. He made the decision immediately. A skeptic to the core, Maxim worked in a central office as an accountant. He had a wonderful wife, Maria, and a son, Vitalik, who had just finished school. Moreover, Maxim was seriously considering having another child and was preparing Maria for it. His wife wasn't opposed, only saying they needed to finish the move, settle into the new place, and then they could plan the pregnancy. Things started off well enough. They unpacked the boxes, did a thorough cleaning, and inspected the entire house again. In some places, Maxim patched up furniture left by the previous owners and hauled junk up to the attic and into the storage room. Then Vitalik went out, and Maria lay down for a nap. Enjoying his new house and the fresh start, Maxim brewed himself some sweet coffee, sipping it and looking out the window at the backyard. The house, though old, was bright, letting in the sun's bright rays and didn't seem like some abstract evil at all. Maxim remembered the stupid rumors and stories associated with this place again. Because the two families who had lived here in a short span of time had died, people immediately dubbed the house cursed. They said a witch had once hanged herself here, that the builders laying the foundation had mysteriously died from a suspicious ailment, that now ghosts inhabited the place in droves, waiting for new victims. Teenage ruffians had repeatedly smashed windows here or sneaked in at night looking for thrills. While the house was for sale, of course, many of them later had trouble with the law. The first night passed calmly and quietly. The family slept soundly, and Maxim felt happy and refreshed. He was confident that with the new house, his family would grow even stronger, get back on their feet. Sure, when Maria went on maternity leave, it would get a bit harder, but they had been through that before and would get through it again. A week flew by unnoticed. The house gained new colors and began to look more lived in. During the day, Maxim was busy at work, returning to his family in the evenings. Everything was good, even too good, so life decided to start throwing surprises. At night, Maxim woke from a feeling that something was wrong. He immediately noticed he was alone in bed, though he had fallen asleep next to Maria. Well, maybe she went to the bathroom, but a sense of something being off didn't leave Maxim. The man got up and went into the hallway. Moonlight spilled through the windows, and the tool swayed in a draft. "Masha?" he asked and walked forward. The floorboards creaked under his feet, and his head suddenly began to ache, throbbing at his temples. What the hell? Maxim swore, and then he saw his wife. She was standing opposite the mirror in the hallway, pale as the moon. "I heard something," she said, looking at him with wide eyes, and then swayed. Maxim immediately recognized a bad sign and ran closer. He managed to catch her just as Maria lost consciousness. The ambulance took several hours to arrive. Maxim was beside himself with worry. Fortunately, Maria regained consciousness before the doctors arrived. She lay weakened in bed, breathing heavily. The doctor examined her, said it was nothing serious, and suggested a pregnancy test. Maria did just that and, shocked, approached Maxim, showing him the 2 lines. He breathed a sigh of relief and, smiling, hugged his wife tightly. So that explained why she had felt unwell in the middle of the night. No mysticism involved. From that day on, Maria became more attentive to her health. Vitalik began spending more and more time at friends' houses, even staying overnight. Maxim didn't mind. To be honest, he no longer had the proper time or ability to keep an eye on his elder son with a younger one on the way. And Maria couldn't be distracted by that either. The pregnancy had hit her hard. His wife was paler than usual, and the morning sickness had already started. Sometimes it was painful to look at her. Maxim insisted she stock up on vitamins, eat better, and rest more. She didn't object. Maxim's headache grew worse with each passing day. He attributed it to working twice as hard now and worrying about Masha. Upon waking, he began feeling nauseous, and breakfast took a back seat. He also cut back on coffee. His stomach was upset. "Honey, I think there's something wrong with this house after all," Maria complained before bed, stroking Maxim's stubble. "I think sometimes at night I hear something. Some sounds, footsteps, a voice. I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. Maybe, of course, I'm just getting worked up." Maxim ran his fingers through the girl's hair. "Stress, the move, the pregnancy. It's not easy. Plus those stupid rumors about the house. Everything will be fine, I promise." Maxim comforted his wife, holding her close, and he thought about her words himself. He didn't believe something inhabited the house. Everything happening here could be easily and rationally explained, and he believed it would all pass soon, and things would become as good as they were when they first moved in. By morning, Maxim woke up feeling as if a bell were ringing in his head. He barely made it to the bathroom to wash his face. He buried his fingers in his hair, breathing heavily, and when he unclenched his fingers, he was stunned. Clumps of his short hair remained in his hands. What was this? Early baldness? Maxim stood in shock, looking at the fallen hair. He ran his hand over the crown of his head again, feeling hairs come away on his palm. Maxim looked in the mirror, as pale as his wife, with bags under his eyes. Something dripped. He looked at the white sink. A thick, scarlet drop glistened on the clean surface. He looked in the mirror again. Blood was flowing from his nose. His fingers trembled. His head felt constricted, and a spasm throbbed in his temples. Maxim coughed, and the blood from his nose began to drip more heavily. He tore off some toilet paper, pressed it to his face. The paper grew wet as if under a faucet, turning red. And at that moment, a frightened scream rang out. Maxim ran out of the bathroom. The scream came from the bedroom. "Masha!" Maxim shoved the door with fury, and it crashed against the wall with a bang. "Masha, you screamed. What's wrong with you?" His own nosebleed hadn't stopped. He had to hold a towel to it. She pointed to her arm, and Maxim was stunned. There were strange marks on her shoulder. All right, it's just an allergy," he tried to reassure her, though he no longer believed himself. Maxim applied cream and bandaged her thin arm. "It's not all right, Max." Masha shouted and started crying. "I'll call Oleg," Maxim said. Oleg was his best childhood friend, and now a general practitioner, and he lived in the same city. "He'll come, take a look." Maria cried on Maxim's shoulder for another half hour, unable to calm down, and she kept talking about voices, footsteps, and strange drafts. "I'm sure. The rumors are true. Max, this house is cursed. And now we're cursed too. There are ghosts here, and they want to destroy us." Maria finally calmed down and fell asleep. Maxim tucked her into the blanket more securely. He was genuinely worried. If his wife got so stressed, could she have a miscarriage? But what then? Sell the house? No, he definitely didn't intend to do that. They had hit the jackpot, buying such a home at such a pleasant price. They had already settled in, already started making plans for further renovations. And now to just drop everything and leave because of hysteria over paranormal rumors? Vitalik came home in the evening. He also looked pale and tired. Maria hugged him, stroking his hair. "Son, what's wrong? You're not yourself. Just feeling a bit off, and my stomach has been hurting all day," Vitalik muttered, walking with an unsteady gait. Maria frowned, helping him sit at the table. "What have you been drinking?" Maxim asked sternly. Vitalik was not himself. His coordination was off. "No, I haven't," he snorted. "Don't let me see you under the influence." Vitalik rolled his eyes, and Oleg finally called Maxim back. Oleg promised to come in 2 days, said he was terribly busy, couldn't make it sooner. Well, to avoid sitting in line at the clinic, Maxim agreed. He'll examine all of you at once. In the middle of dinner, Vitalik ran to the restroom. The light bulb above the table flickered nervously, and Masha, growing even paler, clenched the tablecloth in her fist. The contacts are loose. I'll fix it now, Max said. Bracing himself, the man stood on the table, unscrewed the bulb, and examined it. Better bring me a new one. And Maria went into the hallway. Holding and examining the chandelier, Maxim suddenly heard something strange, like howling outside the window. Dogs. But people around here usually didn't walk dogs, and the neighbors didn't have any either. And suddenly the world swayed. Maxim felt the table creak as he lost his balance. His wife, who had come over just in time, helped him steady himself. "Are you all right?" she asked with concern in her voice. More than, Max replied, feeling a severe dryness in his mouth. "The bulb," he added more irritably. "What? The bulb?" Maxim snorted. "Give me the bulb." Masha flinched at his shout and handed him the bulb. "Did you tell Oleg something's wrong with you too?" "I'm overworked, but I'll tell him when he comes," Maxim said dismissively, screwing in the bulb. It's not flickering anymore. At night, he was tormented by strange pains. Body aches. His head felt heavy as lead and was splitting apart. Maxim woke up in tears. Was I crying? He asked himself rhetorically, and didn't recognize his own hoarse voice. Maria wasn't next to him. She had stayed with Vitalik, whose temperature had spiked suddenly. So the woman was now trying to stay near him, monitoring his condition. Maxim got up, his head was spinning, and the house looked gloomy, like a crypt. Moonlight didn't help. The hallway seemed to have narrowed. Darkness thickened and lived its own life. The floorboards creaked irritatingly with every step. A draft annoyingly moved the room doors. Maxim groaned from the aches, leaning against the wall. Something warm appeared under his nose and on his lips again. Blood, another nosebleed. The next day, Vitalik's temperature went down. He didn't go anywhere. He sat at home all day, and the weather was utterly foul. Rain, slush. Maxim felt like spitting looking out the window. He woke up again with a severe dryness in his throat, and no matter how much he drank, it didn't go away. Masha got worse. She complained of a headache and nausea and decided to stay in bed. The rain poured down in sheets. The precipitation was heavy. Thunder pierced the silence from time to time. Lightning flashed. The power went out. Maxim checked if the fuses had blown. Then he went to the kitchen. Decided he would cook lunch today. Suddenly, a crash and a groan were heard. Maxim ran toward the sound. Vitalik was half sitting, half lying at the bottom of the stairs. Maxim understood immediately. His son had just fallen down the steps. "Are you okay, Vitalik? Can you get up?" "Everything's fine. Just slipped on the last step," Vitalik extended, getting up. Seemed like he really wasn't hurt. Maxim exhaled. Thank God, he was already scared Vitalik had broken something. "Not hurt badly?" "No, I'll go," he said and limped slightly toward the living room. Maxim didn't stop him. He returned to the kitchen and pulled out a packet of vermicelli. Unwrapped it and, with disgust, threw it back into the cupboard. Small gray insects tumbled out of the package. Strange beetles, a whole bunch of them. "Damn," Maxim hissed and urgently threw out the vermicelli, swatting the beetles after it with a rag. What on earth was this? Damn it! At that moment, a plate standing on the edge of the table wobbled and fell, instantly shattering on the tile. "What the hell?" Maxim exclaimed, and sank onto a chair, dropping his head. Red drops immediately stained his brand-new gray trousers. The next morning, the doorbell rang. Oleg. At first, he smiled, but seeing the pale and sickly Morozkins, he frowned. Realized things were bad and urgently began questioning them about their well-being, then examined each one. What he saw shocked Oleg. Without drawing firm conclusions, he ordered the family to temporarily move in with him, taking only the most necessary things. Maxim, in shock and horror, recalled this fragment of his life, that house and how everything turned out. When Oleg seriously began investigating the house, they opened up the walls and discovered radioactive elements. And what the previous residents had died from was nothing other than radiation sickness. The most radioactive substances were found in the walls of the nursery. No ghosts, just cursed radiation. There were even speculations that all the lumber in the house's construction had been brought from the Red Forest, as were the bricks, roofing slate, and everything else. Most likely, that's why the house cost so little. Or maybe not. No one would answer that question anymore. The Morozkins urgently began treatment, but the child in Maria's womb could not be saved. Vitalik barely survived the procedures. Maxim died the following year in a new house. By a cruel twist of fate, however, he died from a sudden heart attack.